Hey guys, it's the PMV Productions, and today I will be reviewing Spider-Man Homecoming, which just opened, and I'm just gonna come out and say it that I really like this movie. It's one of, not my favorite, one of my favorite in the new Phase 2 of Marvel and all the Marvel movies. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with my notes, because I have a lot of notes here, and we're gonna start with the pros here. So, this is my favorite Spider-Man of all the interpretations, and I might get a little bit of hate for that because I know most people, like myself, did grow up with the Tobey Maguire Peter Parker, and this is my favorite one, and that's just me because I think it's the most realistic, most teenager-y, and it's the most fun that I've ever had watching a Spider-Man movie. So I just think the character itself and the movie itself is just one of the best. So the next point I have was that the writing was really, I thought was pretty good. I was really invested in the story and how the story moved along, and I thought the dialogue was pretty realistic. There at times it wasn't, but I'll talk about that later. It was a pretty well-written film, and I thought it was, on its own, a good Spider-Man movie. Like I said, realistic. So yeah, that's writing. I'm going off track, but I'll move on to my next thing. With good writing comes with layered characters, and I think we have a lot of layered characters in this movie. First of all, the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton, was really layered, and I was really invested in that villain. I know Marvel gets a lot of complaints about how their villains aren't very fleshed out and very good and very interesting. I thought this one was really good, and it kind of adds to it that Michael Keaton was the freaking Vulture, and, like, you know, Michael Keaton is Michael Keaton, so we all love Michael Keaton. So, yeah, I actually did like the character itself, whether it was played by a big famous guy that just happened to play Batman, or not. So, yeah, and then the next layered character was the friend. For right now, I'm just relying off of my thoughts straight out of the movie. I saw it a few hours ago, and I'm gonna be honest, I do not remember the friend's name, like, whatsoever. But, like, it was a good character. The friend of Spider-Man, you'll see him in all the trailers. He's just funny. He's a funny dude, and every single time he was on screen, I was so, invested in his character, and I thought he was pretty realistic, because I do know a few people that are like that, and I just thought he was a good, like, kind of sidekick to, Spider-Man. So, that layered friend was a comedic element, but it wasn't the only funny part of this movie. It was really funny. I mean, there were, like, a lot of moments when I was really laughing hard. So, I love that. I love when I can, like, laugh at a movie that's, like, kind of serious, but kind of not. And I think that's what the character Spider-Man is, and I think that's probably makes it one of the funnier, if not the funniest, Spider-Man of all of them. There's been 5? Yeah, 5. Alright. So, the last point I have for pros is that it was very connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it was very connected to the other movies, and there were a lot of connections to Iron Man, obviously, because he, just in case you didn't know, is in this movie, and it has a very big role in this movie to Spider-Man's life and to Spider-Man's journey. So, yeah, I actually really liked it, and it made it more interesting and was very unique compared to the other Spider-Man movies. I know it's weird to compare one movie to another movie, but you kind of have to. After this many Spider-Man movies, I think you gotta compare it to the other ones, because, you know, most people did grow up with Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and everyone knows that one, and everyone's expecting it to be that, but it's not, and I think it's good in different ways. Anyways, off track again. Alright, so that's my last point when it comes to pros. When it comes to cons, I have a few, not very many, and they're not as big of a deal, because overall this movie was way better than it was. It It wasn't as bad as it was good. You know what I'm saying. Alright, so I'm gonna move on to the cons. When I'm talking about the expanded universe and the cinematic universe and how connected it was to this movie, I think at times it was a little bit too connected. It took up a lot of time. I mean, there was, like, this is not a standalone movie. Like, you could not, I don't think you could sit down and watch this movie without seeing the other Avengers films or the other, any Marvel film. Like, you just gotta watch the other ones and know the other Marvel movies to understand this one, because the major plot point is that Peter Parker wants to be an Avenger, and that's not a spoiler or anything. That's in all the marketing, everything, and he really just wants to be an Avenger, and Tony Stark is very hesitant to that. So that is a huge part of this, and although I was very interested in it, it does make the movie another just a spin-off of the Avengers instead of a standalone Spider-Man film. So that's a downside and an upside if you are a fan of all the other movies. The next problem is something that I had with the writing. I thought the writing was good. I didn't think it was great though. And this could also have to do with the direction, but it depends. The high school interactions were a little bit forced to me, and this character, Marvel was trying to push that this character is in high school, not in college or not a senior. He's a sophomore, and he just turned 15, and he is he's going to high school parties, and he's going to homecoming, like the title says, and it's definitely directed by someone older than a high schooler, obviously, but just like someone that like has realistic views of high school, but not too realistic. Like, there are just some parts in the movie I was just sitting there and I was like, there's no way a high schooler would do that or say that, or there's no way that would happen, or whatever. It was just a little bit dumbed down of high school, and although there were some like realistic elements, but it just wasn't enough, and it was a little bit too PG-13 for me, or even PG at some times, because I am a high schooler and I do know how high school is. So, yeah, that was a problem there that I had. So, with I'm gonna go back to the expanded universe and the cinematic universe thing that was going on there. That took up so much time of the movie that they didn't spend enough time on Peter Parker himself. Even though the entire movie follows him, I still don't think I had enough time with him, because from the beginning of the movie, you're just thrown into his life, and you are just thrown in right from at the end of Civil War, and you just follow his journey from there, and honestly, you don't really know much else about him. I mean, between the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Mans, there were 2 backstories, so we didn't really want to see another backstory, but I still was kind of confused as to where Spider-Man was, because, you know, those stories were a little bit altered between the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield one. So I wasn't really sure how exactly Peter Parker came to be Spider-Man in this version, or what has he done besides Civil War, and what did he do before then, and how is he doing now? What is he doing now? Anyways, so I just felt like I need a little more backstory, a little more fleshed out character for Peter Parker. I don't know, that might just be me, but I just was a little bit lost for a second. Alright, so the conflict. There are lots of different conflicts in there, in this movie, and that's not a problem for me. There's lots of movies with many different conflicts, but it took a long time to set up that conflict. Like, you were really confused for a very long time, and I don't know if this is right or not, but it may or may not have been up until halfway through the movie until you really figure out what's going on and what the conflict is and what Peter Parker's up against here. So I guess that could have been established a little bit earlier and a little bit less confusion because, once again, the cinematic universe was a very big part of it. Next. The stakes. I don't know if any of you guys watch Jeremy Johns, but he's another reviewer on YouTube, and he mentioned a really good point that I actually noticed as well. The stakes weren't very high in this movie. I mean, usually the biggest stakes I learned in a screenwriting thing was that the biggest stakes are life and death. So, and that wasn't even in this. And like, when you come in to see an action movie nowadays, you're kind of expecting those stakes to be there, life or death. And there really wasn't. I mean, there was no real chance that like anyone was gonna really actually die in this. There are chances, but like you don't feel it as an audience member that anyone's gonna die or is in real danger the entire time. So yeah, that's probably part of the conflict problem, and how, I don't know, you just don't get really that emotionally invested when it comes down to the real terrible situations. Alright, so to wrap this entire review up, I know there's a lot of information I just threw at you, but hopefully I, just gathered it all together and put it in, and you can just watch little parts of it, and you'll understand where my viewpoint is. So, overall, I thought this was a really great Spider-Man movie. It was the best Spider-Man interpretation. Tom Holland did a great job. Great actor. Can't wait to see what other films he's in. It's set up well into the expanded and cinematic Marvel universe. So that was great. I can't wait to see like Infinity War and all those things, and can't wait to see the other Spider-Man movies. And then the last con that I have to talk about is the setting up the cinematic universe, and that was just a big part of it, and that did cause some problems for the story. But as I said, overall, great movie, and I guarantee you guys will most likely like it. Guarantee you will most likely. I guarantee you guys will somewhat like it, at least, if that made sense. Anyways, thank you guys for watching this review. If you are new to my channel, I do short films and vlogs and all that cool stuff. So if you want to subscribe, I mean, you can go ahead and just check out my channel if you want to see what other stuff, and if you like it, go ahead and subscribe. I'm not gonna ask you to click that like button, but that would be helpful. Anyways, so thank you once again, second time, for watching this review. I will see you in the next video, and there's some great content coming soon, I'm going to tell you right now. Alright, so be awesome, be amazing, and see you later.